What's My Frame, we're talking with casting director Geralyn Flood. Geralyn has worked on projects for all of the major networks, from ABC to the CW, Disney to Snapchat, and the list just continues to grow. Geralyn's first casting job was working with Jeff Greenberg on Frasier. Yes, that Frasier. While at Jeff's office, she also worked on According to Jim and I'm With Her. She then spent 4 years at St. Pillsbury working on Good Luck Charlie, White Collar, and Gary Unmarried, as well as countless unseen pilots. I think as working actors, we can all relate to that struggle. In addition to her impressive TV credits, Geralyn has worked on Indian studio films, including 3 Mark Waters features, Just Like Heaven, The Spiderwick Chronicles, and Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. Geralyn is currently working with Marc Hirschfeld on a number of projects, including the CBS favorite Man with a Plan, starring Matt LeBlanc. In 2019, Geralyn reteamed with Norman Lear for his Live in Front of a Studio audience, All in the Family and the Jeffersons special, for which she won her second Artios Award for Excellence in Casting. Please join me in welcoming the exceptional Geralyn Flood.
Aw, exceptional. Thank you so much. That's very nice.
Well, thanks for joining us. I know how much
My
you
pleasure.
love actors and you champion for them, and that's just so important for me to share that with the listeners.
Wow, that's very sweet. Thanks. I try.
Since the last time I spoke with you, you won a second Artios Award. Congrats, that's huge.
Thank you very
Can you
much.
tell us a little bit about that whole process and how the project came about, how you got involved?
Sure. Marc Hirschfeld and I, my business partner, did a pilot for Norman Lear 3 years ago now. It's hard. It all blends. Called
It does.
Guess Who Died. And we all just got along with Brent Miller, Norman Lear's producing partner. And he thought of us. He kept us in mind when this all happened.
Mhm.
So we were able to work with Sony Casting, who did a lot of the heavy lifting, but booking Woody and Marissa and Jamie Foxx and people like that. And we did then, like, we helped with Ike Barinholtz and all the other casting of that sort of level.
Mhm.
Super fun. And so we had such a great time, and they did the second one. We won the Artios for the first one, which was the Jeffersons and All in the Family. And they did a second one in May of this year. December of last year. Lost track of time. May was the first one. December was the second one, which was Good Times and All in the Family.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into casting?
I'm from New York,
Okay.
born and raised. But when I was moving here, I had dinner with, before I moved in New York, I had dinner with Kathy Rankin, who's a casting director. And we chatted and got on like a house on fire. And she said, you should come work for Jeff Greenberg when you move out here. You know, like, you should, like, meet him at least. And I was like, okay, I don't know who he is. Only because I was focused on movie casting directors, because that's who you see on the big screen. And of course I knew there were casting directors for TV, but for some reason I thought Hollywood movies, you know. But I met with, long story short, I met with Jeff Greenberg, and he offered me a job on the spot, and I took it. And I took a 55% pay cut, and loved every minute of it. Jeff and I had a great conversation. We started talking about theater, which I love, he loves. He said, you know, oh, I have a show with Jean Smart. And I kind of gasped with excitement. And he's like, do you know Jean Smart? And I said, no, but I made a list of 5 actors female and male actors that I wanted to see more of on TV if you asked me. And Jean Smart was on the list. And he was like, oh, okay. And I said, I saw her in this Nikki Silver play that she was so great in. And he's like, I saw that play too. And we had a whole theater convo. And so we just got along really well. And I got that job, and it took off from there.
Wow. Okay. Do you remember any of the other names on your list of 5 and 5?
I don't. I really don't. Not now. I know I thought about that. I wish I could find it, but I don't. But Jean was one of them, you know.
That's such a cool thing to have, like, started with, is like inspiration. What is one of your personality strengths that is an asset in your casting?
I make a joke that every casting director has a little, I mean, and no disrespect to anybody who actually has OCD, but that it's in our names, casting director, CD, um, obsessive about your lists and your ideas and thinking and always thinking. And every person that I know and every person that I work with, there are always text chains of like, who'd be great? We should check on. It's just always happening where you're thinking like, who else would be good? Who else do you like? What about, what do you think? So it's that kind of obsessiveness, and also just like making sure that you've answered every email, that you looked at every submission. Every casting director that I know looks at every single submission that comes in. And sometimes it's in the 5,000 or 6,000. And we look at every single one. Mark and I look at every single one. So actors out there, if you're thinking, oh, they never look, it's not true. And I've done a survey of all of my friends, and they are like, oh yeah, of course, I have to.
Yes. Well,
I have to, like, cleaning out your inbox,
breathing a sigh of relief that their pictures are in fact being seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right now, we're navigating some new territory in the industry, some very uncertain times. Do you have any advice for how actors can stay creative and productive in this time, or anything that you're personally finding to help your creative as well? It's just getting that creative outlet for you.
I am very crafty and like to build things and make things. So I am doing all of the repairs around the house that I kept meaning to get to and haven't. And it makes my husband laugh because he'll just like come in and like a desk has been taken apart just because like a joint was off, and so I'm putting it back together. I can't buy paint or anything like that, which I love to paint the house. But doing just all of those odd, fun jobs around the house that are very satisfying, and cleaning. I've always liked to clean because it feels so productive. You can see like what was dirty is now very clean, now taken on a higher level of meaning.
Yeah.
Or I bake, as we were talking about before we started. I like to bake and cook. Unfortunately, I seem to only be able to cook for like 20, and there's only 2 of us.
Big family style cooking.
I made meatballs the other night, and I think I made 36. I don't know why. I made vegetable soup last night, and I think they're about 2 gallons. I just can't.
Are you from a large family?
No! I don't know where this came. I just can't.
I don't know. Let's double it to be safe, just to be sure we have enough.
I don't know. My eyes are bigger than my mouth, I guess. I don't know. But it's fun. I like it. And now I'm going to learn my friend challenged me to make some easy sandwich bread that I just printed out the recipe from America's Test Kitchen.
Oh, yeah. I remember you talking about bread. Carbs.
Yeah.
We love them.
Well, yeah, I did the Whole30 before all of this. Oh, that was fun. Yeah.
To survive.
You know what? It was surprisingly easy. It's really the first week was a little tricky, just prepping and all of that stuff. But then once you get into a rhythm, it's fine. But then everything went off the rails, and I was like, "Carbs are my friend. Where's the wine? Yes, please. Thank you very much."
At this point, we're all in the trenches together. There is a judgment-free zone that everyone is acknowledging.
Oh yeah, my husband is like, who does not drink. He was like, "You can have your wine now, honey," because I think I was getting on his nerves. I'm like, "Fine, okay. You don't have to tell me twice."
You insist, sure. So for any actors that are considering the New York or LA markets that are currently in a secondary market, Austin, Atlanta, which they're coming up on our heels in LA. But do you have any advice for actors that are considering making that move? What are the differences, what to expect, what to prep before you start paying for rent in Los Angeles or New York?
Yeah. I always say stay in your hometown for as long as you possibly can, because it's not going to be the same when you get here. It's just not. Like you're, in Atlanta, I don't know how many casting directors are in Atlanta, so I'm just hypothesizing. If there are 5
I think
casting
there's
directors.
5 to 7.
Okay, that's all right. So that was my
Spot on.
they all know you.
Mhm.
They all know what you can do. And there's a shorthand, and you're going in for guest stars that much faster, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But here there are how many casting directors, and growing all the time in New York as well for all different markets. There are, there are casting directors who do cruises. There are casting directors, not right now, but
Theme park, all of it.
yes, thank you. When all of that stuff comes back, there's touring companies which are different than the Broadway companies, which are different than all of that stuff. There's just so many casting directors that you then have to show yourself again and again and again and again, and it could get really hard on your ego, I think.
Yeah.
So I say stay in your area as long as you can until you can get a really great demo together that shows your comedy, that shows your drama, that maybe moves you to the front of the line a little bit faster than someone who just came from, who doesn't have the kind of credits that you have.
Exactly. Now I want to talk about casting profiles, because obviously that is a huge way that actors are going to introduce themselves to you, as well as self-tapes. What are the important elements that you feel all actors need to have on their profiles, as well as what are materials or things that we as actors can do to make your job easier in casting?
Okay, these are good questions.
Thank you. Maybe type A.
Well, yeah, that's how we get along. I think for your casting profile, the photo should be you on a really good day, not with if you're a woman with your hair done perfectly and your makeup done by a professional.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this because it's you can never recreate it, and so
Mm-hmm.
you never want to be a disappointment when you walk in the room. Not that you would be. Everybody's lovely. I don't mean it that way, but I think I told you the story when I got married. The women from the show that I was doing did my hair and makeup for my wedding, and we got the photos back, and I was like, I'm stunning. I mean, why didn't anybody tell me? And I was like, oh, no. It was just the makeup was phenomenal. I had tiny individual lashes on. Like, it was amazing.
You had a glam spot.
Yes, but I can't recreate that. I can't do that. I don't know what they did. I don't know how they did it.
It's gypsy magic. Don't know how.
Yeah.
They're so good at their job.
Yeah, amazing. But that's my point, is that, like, yes, it's fun, and maybe one day, like, get those photos for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't. But those, I find it's also a false image. Unless you can do that makeup yourself all the time. I have a friend who's a makeup artist. She can do that to herself. Great, go for it.
Yeah.
I also just feel like be careful of all the makeup trends and clothing trends that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like for women, I'm sorry guys, but your hair and makeup don't change.
It's true. You guys only really get asked, are you willing to shave?
Right, exactly. Like for women, I feel like there's so much contouring and so much stuff that's happening these days that it can also date your photo, because if you take that photo now or a year ago and all of the makeup styles change and your photo still presents that, I'm going to know that photo is dated. And most casting directors are women, and they're going to know for the most part when that makeup style was done. Same with, like, there's a lot of shirts that are, what are they called? Like the shoulders are cut out.
Yes. I think cold shoulders or something like that.
Yes. There's some phrase, whatever that is. Like, that's a very
cutesy name for it.
Yeah. That's a very in style right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that may date your photo. I used to use the example all the time. I remember when those ironic t-shirts were popular, like Eat at Joe's and
yes,
Kiss Me I'm Irish and all that stuff. People would use those t-shirts in their photos to be memorable. But if you're using that photo 4 years later, I know when you took that photo.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, look, wear your power outfit
Mm-hmm.
but try and find that outfit that is a little more timeless.
Yes. And I feel like actors sometimes just like really needed the dots put close together. Can you just go back where you were saying, like, that the photo is old? So what, in casting's mind, what's the first thing that you think of if from the trend, be it the clothes or the makeup, that this photo is 2 to 4 years old? What's your first thought?
Well, it makes me wonder then, like, I'm looking for mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were maybe at the edge of the mid-20s
Mm-hmm.
when this photo was taken, you're now late 20s, possibly early 30s.
Yeah.
So I don't know that. And it's, it does, and it's, sometimes it doesn't matter because the way you look young and whatever,
Yeah.
But sometimes it does make the difference if I've cast someone who truly is 23.
Yes.
And you're 27 or 28. And it doesn't jive together. So that it won't work with my casting that I've already established. So that takes you out of the running.
And then we as actors are requiring you guys to do guesstimated math. And at a point, it just gets too time consuming and we've knocked ourselves out versus just having a current classic photo.
Yeah. And even if like that photo, you see, the thing is, like, if that photo were 2 or 3 years old and you were wearing something that I don't know when it's from, I'm going to be like, oh, that looks the part.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's have her in.
Let's try to stay away from
Same with dudes, there's stuff with dudes that are very dated.
Coming off of profiles and going to self-tapes, I know that majority of your sessions are run in the room, correct?
Correct.
But for the occasional self-tape, it's a catch-22. Obviously you have that reduced stress, but also you don't have that valuable redirect. Any advice for self-taping specifically for your office? Because I know you can't speak to all, but
right.
Any specific notes or tips?
Yeah, I mean, well, I also, Mark and I consult for Snapchat. And so we are looking at auditions from people who are self-taping.
I didn't because it's work with Snapchat. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's been past couple of months we've been doing it. And it's just getting into auditions. So we've been looking at a lot of auditions. And one of them is, one of the shows is shooting in Austin. So they wanted local hires. Mm-hmm. And it's a younger show because it's Snapchat. And some of these women who self-taped, had not great lighting or a terrible reader that did them no favors. And I was looking because sometimes I self-tape my brother-in-law who's an actor, which of course makes me laugh because it's like, wait, why am I doing, where's the casting director doing this? Well, whatever. And I was looking, there are those, I found on Amazon a tripod with a ring light that you can sit your iPhone in the middle of. And in this day and age, iPhones take great. You don't need a specific camera anymore.
100%.
And I was saying that he should invest in that because it's such an easy way to make sure you're lit well. Because with a self-tape, you're not going to, you might do a full body at some point because they ask for that. Mm-hmm. But most of the time you're just kind of below your shoulders and up. And that light looked great for, what I could see. And I think it was like $40. And I thought that's it on a tripod. So it's not shaking.
Yes.
I know so many friends who have, stacked their phone on a box that they're resting on something and they're doing a great tape. And then it falls over, and then what are you going to do? So invest that $40 feels like a good investment, and it feels fair. I know that there's a lot of asked of actors to have to spend a lot of money on things without a lot of return initially, but I feel like $40 is good, and also you can use it at parties to make like a little fun party booth.
Exactly. Photo booth at events and things like that.
So that could be a fun thing as well. So lighting would be the biggest thing, and finding someone you can read with. And that could be just starting a community with your friends where you're like, I'll do yours if you help me do mine. Or maybe we just read together, I'll find a scene online, or this intrigued me and I just want to do it just to do it.
Yeah, having that creative community is key, because otherwise you will go a little crazy if you think everyone is your competition versus your companion.
And also your partner will lose their mind because if they're not an actor, they'll be like, I don't know how to read this well.
Wait, I'm supposed to read it louder, softer, more feeling, less feeling. Wait, what? Am I supposed to pause? What's happening here? It's like, just read it. It's fine. Just like throw it away. What does throw it away mean? It it spirals very quickly.
Yep, exactly.
Going back to live for a minute, you were talking a little bit about the casting process. Because of the success of live, I've heard a number of whispers and murmurs that they're going to start doing more of those like live specials and things like that. For any actor that hasn't been in for that kind of project, is there any difference in what you guys are looking for energy wise or in the room versus like a multicam?
Well, really, at the end of the day, specifically with ours at least, it is a multicam. It is in front of a studio audience. You are going to have to hold for pause. The only difference is sort of making sure that you're off book, because there's no second take, and making sure you know your lines and you know what you're doing. But other than that, it's all the same as a multicam. I mean, if you think Woody started on a multicam, Marissa started, I know her from a multicam, from a different world. Like they all came from that. And so if you have any history of live theater, that's a help.
Yeah.
But it's really the same as a multicam. It really is.
Now, for any actors that have not had the opportunity to come into your office specifically, can you walk us through a session or an audition in your room and what it's like, who's running camera, who's likely reading with us, things like that?
First of all, I'm very mean.
I can second that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very cruel. I'm very strict. No, not at all. I try and make it as fun and as easy as possible, because I want you to succeed and I want everything to go smoothly for all of us. Generally in a producer session, I'm running camera and I'm reading. That's most of the time I'm out with the plan. That would be the case. Marc is based a lot in New York, but he's also out in California a lot. So depending on, I would say, odds are you'll get me, but you never know. You might have surprise guest to Marc, and Marc will read and I'll run camera, or I'll read and run camera. For Man with the Plan, our producers are awesome and lovely. They generally don't redirect. You come in, you do what you do, and you get out. And that's it.
I think it's so important to sometimes demystify new rooms for actors, because we are one of the few in the world that we're asked to go into a room we've never seen the inside of and do our job with very short amount of time to get acclimated. Whereas like normally you would have an interview and then you would, go through an actual day on the job, and we're kind of just suspending all of this disbelief and imagination into a room we've never been in. And I think for some actors, it's helpful to kind of just know a little bit of what we're working with when we get in there.
Yeah. And some, like the thing is though, yes, I do think you do know what you have to know what you're working with, but also that should not impact how you're going to do what you're going to do. Because there are some rooms that are cold.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they're not nice people. They're just not ones to display emotion. And you have to be okay with that, I know with some tests sometimes, when people go in to test for serious regular roles, there are some rooms where people just don't laugh. And it doesn't mean that they didn't enjoy what was happening. They're just not a room that laughs. And rather than have that throw you, you just have to show them what you can do, which is hard. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. Let me be clear.
Life, though. We did choose acting.
Yeah. I'm not saying like, just figure it out. I know that that's hard, but you do have to not in a way that doesn't make sense. You probably came up from doing theater in high school and college and all this stuff. So you're used to that response. So when you're coming into audition or, perform in front of these people, you expect a response. And when you don't get it, you think you're bombing. And you have to learn to trust that, like, no, I hit that. I know that was good. Moving on, and trust your gut and just kind of self-check every time you audition, like that felt good or that didn't go. blew that or whatever. Okay, great. What did I learn? Moving on next.
Yeah, I think that is so important because often I think actors are too quick to throw it away and forget about the
Right.
audition and say, oh, self-preservation, like I'm not going to think about it. And I think you lose some very valuable lessons that you can take from an audition, good, bad, or indifferent. And then sometimes we're too quick to kind of wallow in it and over analyze things, and we need to work to find that like happy medium post auditions.
I think you need to find a friend who will do a postmortem with you, as I like to call it. My brother-in-law is an actor, and sometimes he needs to be like, okay, so this happened and then that happened and then this happened and then that happened, and I think that went well, but I think this and that. Anyway, how was your day? And it's like, great, okay, moving.
Yes.
You just need to get it out and then move on.
Yeah. Speaking of auditions, I like to keep things light. A memorable audition story, good or one that left you shaking your head when the person left the room. Your choice.
Oh boy. I don't know. I have a bunch of not great ones, but it's more just like the consistent thing is that someone was not prepared. I remember one time I was working with Jeff Greenberg out here and we were doing a pilot, and I remember it was President's Weekend and we were working on the Monday, a full day of pre-reads, I think. And this guy came in and said, so is this a comedy? And I thought, wow. So I've given up my 3-day weekend. Jeff's given up his 3-day weekend. We're all here. And you didn't think to ask before you came in? And also, what if we had said no? It's not a comedy. Did you have a drama choice for where do
you even start? I remember you talking one time before about someone not coming in off book, having gotten the sides on like Friday. Like if you have the whole weekend, like that is a huge thing. That is one thing with Geralyn. Come in off book if you're coming in Monday after having your sides for 48 hours at least.
100%. You're right. That is my biggest pet peeve, particularly on a Monday. If I have sent you an audition, I try to give you minimum 24 hours. I know, sometimes that still doesn't work because you've got a day gig and then you get a night gig and, but I try and give you at least 24 hours so you can get at least 3 hours in there somewhere to work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you come in on a Monday and you're not off book, it's like, buddy.
Don't even know the genre of the show. Just what?
Yeah, that was the one where I was like, what?
So, spoiler alert, I'm assuming he didn't book it?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
So
he was also young, to be fair, but like, that's just like, if that's the rookie mistake, I can teach people who are listening out there who are new. Yeah. Ask all of those questions beforehand. And you should have a breakdown somewhere that you got that says half-hour single cam, half-hour multicam, 1 hour drama, dramedy, whatever. And you can look up everybody on that breakdown. So who wrote it? What have they written in the past? There's so much information you can get from that breakdown that you can just like dig deeper.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so imperative that you look up the writers, the directors, and see what their past resume, because more often than not, it will indicate what you're in fact going in for. And like you can see some examples of their work, even if it's a pilot, you're not going in with no expectations or no idea.
Correct.
Actors often like to feel like they are doing something. And I say that with air quotes because more often than not, it's expensive projects that don't really move the needle. So what is something that is more productive that we as actors can do to stay in touch with you, to show you what we're doing, stay on your radar, etc., that are not annoying and money and time sucks? Hard question, but like everybody, I feel like you always get to that point where you're frustrated. You're like, I just need to do something. Also, now postcards.
Right. I get it. Like I get it. Postcards are fine if you're doing something, if you are in something.
Yeah.
I've had people, because I'm Irish, send me St. Patrick's Day cards. And I think, well, you just wasted your money just to say like, happy St. Patrick's Day. It's very sweet. Don't get me wrong. If you are someone who sent me that card, don't think I wasn't touched. But also part of me felt like, no, that's money you could spend elsewhere on your artistic soul, wherever, however that is that you want to spend it. So, but yeah, if you want to send me a postcard because you're in something that you're proud of, I love theater, do it. But don't just send me a postcard to be like, hey, we met 6 months ago. It's 6 months later, and it's like, well, I know we met 6 months ago. I keep detailed files.
It's just that like uncomfortableness that it's not necessary. And that's one thing that I really respect about you is you are not just focused on your side of the work. You're also really concerned about actors' longevity and their finances and their mental health and their emotional creativity, and it's not just a business for you, which I really respect. And
well, we're all in this together. We all started because of some sort of creative spark that is in us, and it's hard to keep that in mind when you're in Hollywood or anywhere and trying to and when you have your parents going, I just wish you would book something. Me too, Mom. Me too. Like we're all like
those Grey's Anatomies. It's just like, it's like going to the store. You just pick it up. It's totally easy.
Yeah, it's totally. Yeah. You know what you should do? Yeah, that's my favorite too. You should do that show, the Shonda show. Shonda Rhimes. Yeah, I would kill to be on a Shonda Rhimes show.
The Shonda show. Yeah.
Yeah, like that sort of stuff.
That's the new one for Netflix. She's doing the Shonda show.
Yeah. So I get that, but I don't. Yeah, it makes me anxious when people send me stuff. Someone there, a group of actors sent a very like elaborate, very sweet pilot. What do they call it? I can't even get it right. Pilot preparedness kit, and it had little tiny bottles of alcohol. 2 little bottles of mixers. It had aspirin. It had RX bars. It had pistachios and popcorn. It was very sweet, but all I kept thinking was, how many of these did you make?
So when the industry resumes, which we all need reminders that it will return, because we cannot survive without entertainment. We will have entertainment.
Clearly. Exactly. What are we all doing?
Everybody's freaking out when Netflix freezes. Like we clearly need entertainment. So our industry will return. What is something you're excited to get back to work on when office hours resume?
I was working on this great pilot, and I hope it continues. We were so close to the finish line. We were a week before we were starting filming. We were supposed to start filming this Monday, I think it was. I don't know. I've lost track of days. Yeah, Monday. Yeah. It's called Jury Duty, and it's just funny and smart. And the women who wrote it are funny and smart. And I really was I loved the cast that we'd put together thus far. And we had a couple more deals that needed to be closed, and we would have been done. And it was one of those, like, sometimes you do pilots and you're like, well, that's not going to happen. And sometimes you do them, you just know at the end, like when it all comes together, as much as you love everybody, it just doesn't. And then sometimes you meet people and you're like, I just want to work with you forever. And I was working with, and we've been working with Dana Klein and Stephanie Furman Darrow. I got it wrong. And I just love them, and I want to keep working with them. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
For our last question, we ask everyone on the What's My Frame podcast, what is one thing you wish you could go back and tell your younger self?
Oh, relax. Just relax. It'll all work out the way it's it's all going to work out the way it's going to work out, and you stressing is not going to change it. Ugh. So many angsty, conversations with friends, and it's all gonna be what it's gonna be, and it's not the life you thought you were gonna have, but it's the life you want.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That does.
If someone there are times where I'll be sitting in a room, with Norman Lear. I think, what the you kidding me? Or I got to meet Jimmy Kimmel after the first live in front of a studio audience, and I got to gush to him how lucky I felt to be a part of this. And he was so like clearly like understood where I was coming from, and I thought, how amazing, how lucky am I? Or just, I remember I was doing a pilot with Zane Pillsbury, and I was sitting with Ted Wass, who was the dad on Blossom, who was on, like Soap, like who is this amazing, talented man who's the director of the pilot. And I'm sitting there looking at photos of his daughter, I think at the time, I forget. And I'm like, what? There's my, sitting in Queens, never in a bajillion years did I think that this would happen to me. And how amazing.
Yeah.
So, and just in those moments of, my husband and I try and be very grateful of like, we're doing this. It's hard, but we're in it together, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and your insight and just your love of actors. We so appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to see your face, even though no one else can.
We're zooming. We're getting to see people again.
Well, I hope to see you in person soon in my audition room.
Would love that.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening, and to my guest today, Geralyn Flood. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe, and tell a friend. Our goal here at What's My Frame is to encourage, educate, and inspire our creative community. You can also follow us on Instagram at What's My Frame for daily blogs, industry news, and casting opportunities. I'm Laura Linda Bradley, and this is What's My Frame.